Hi, my name is Mark Love, and I'm here with my wife Kim. We are on the Viking Neptune, about to take the British Isles itinerary, and we thought it would be interesting for an episode of Viking TV to take a tour of an ocean ship so you can compare, if you've been on the river ships, to the differences and the similarities. A little bit about our background. Kim and I were both high school teachers. She taught PE and health, and I taught economics and world history. And since we retired, we've become big fans of traveling, especially with Viking. This itinerary will be our 17th trip with Viking, and we've enjoyed both rivers, oceans, and expeditions. And so what we're going to do today is we thought we would explore the ship the same way it would be as if you were boarding the ship, and then how you would go through the first several hours and days on board. So let's go down to guest services. As we explore the ship, a couple of things that you should know in general about the ship itself. Viking ocean ships are small, big ships. They're about 800 feet long. There's only 8 decks, and the top deck is a sports deck, so really there's only 7 decks that you will explore around. And there's a capacity of only 900 guests. That means it's a lot different from the big ships, from the big cruise companies. Instead of having thousands of people and constantly feeling like you're in a massive herd, you always have plenty of room to relax, find quiet spots, and you never feel rushed or crowded or anything. So let's go on down to guest services. Here we are at guest services, and the first thing you should know is one of the biggest advantages of going with Viking on the oceans is just like the rivers, it's all about the Viking staff. It's so personable. You feel like you're the most important person on board, and that starts right here in guest services. When you check in to Viking Oceans, guest services is actually located outside, and you have a comfort check-in that you can do before you get on the ship at home, so that it's very smooth. You just give them your passports, they give you your room key, and in you come. But if you're at guest services, you have any problems, this is where you would do it. One interesting story, when we were coming on our first Viking Oceans, we knew that the cruise started on Tuesday, and so I thought that's when we were leaving, not realizing that in an international trip you leave the day before. And I told our son and our daughter and our youngest son that we were leaving on Tuesday. Well, the itinerary said Monday. So when I talked to my son on the phone and he said, "You're leaving tomorrow," and I said, "No, we're not leaving until Tuesday. Didn't you look at the itinerary?" He said, "I could have sworn that's when you were leaving." So Monday rolls around and our son calls and he says, "So today's the big day?" And I'm like, "Didn't you look at the itinerary? We don't leave until tomorrow." And he said, "I'm pretty sure you leave today." And about 20 minutes later, I get a screenshot of our itinerary, and we were leaving that day. So I looked over at my wife, who was on the phone with our daughter, and I said, "We have 3 hours to get to the airport." But we made it, everything was good, got the guest services, got our keys, and we were ready to go to our room. So let's go check out our room. So now we've checked into our stateroom with our key card, and we'll start here with the veranda. Why? Because unlike big ocean ships, everybody on a Viking Ocean, they get a veranda. The difference between the 300, the 400, and the 500 levels, not so much the square footage, but the price varies by how close you are to the middle, to the elevators. And the more money you pay, the higher up you go, the more to the middle of the ship, the earlier you get to book your excursions and so on. We were fortunate enough that when we came on this itinerary, 2 days before we left, they upgraded us to, look at this, the junior suite, where we have a living room and we have the bedroom and much more room here with our desk. And then there's a nice bathroom, bigger than most, where you have a shower, 2 sinks, very roomy. So now that we've checked into our room, let's go up to the World Cafe and grab a bite to eat. Come on up. So now that we checked into our room, we can go up just a couple decks, and that's one of the big advantages of Viking Oceans. It's not like there's 16, 17 decks. So even if you're on the bottom level, level 3, to get up to level 7, it's only a couple flights of stairs to get up here. And this is the World Cafe, where they serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the food here is nearly always the exact same thing that you get in the main dining room. There's plenty of room. You got lots of panoramic windows. You can look out, and the food's great and the service is super. But one of the best places to eat when you're up here is the Aquavit Terrace. Let's go out there. Here in the Aquavit Terrace, it is an extension of the World Cafe, and you can eat al fresco right out here in the fresh air and get the 360 panoramic views. This is also where the small infinity pool is with a hot tub. We love to eat lunch out here, see the world, especially when we're cruising, go by. So let's go up to the top deck. Now we're on deck 8. This is a sports deck, and as you can see, there are so many places where you can find comfortable chairs, chase lounges, and just watch the world. There's a walking track, so it's a nice place to go if you want to be completely outside and see the 360 degrees. But there are 2 pools on board. We saw the one. Let's go see the other one. So here we're overlooking the main pool, and notice the roof. This is one of the cool things. The pool itself is heated, but the retractable roof, if the weather's pleasant like it is today, you can pull the roof back, plenty of sunbathing down below. But if it's a little chilly, you can close the roof off and you got yourself an indoor swimming pool. Lots of lounging spaces, and you can see the panoramic windows on that side, and it's the same here. So you can sit poolside and still get all the vistas. Here we are in the winter garden. As you can see, pool's right there, but in here, this is a nice quiet spot where you can hang out, read, and whatever. And every afternoon, as is a European and English tradition, they serve coffee, tea, and cakes here. So that's a nice little treat. Let's move on. This is one of our favorite spots. This is the Explorers Lounge. It's located at the end of the ship on both deck 7 and deck 8. We're on deck 8 right now. As you can see, the panoramic view. Here's how we like to use this facility. On the rivers, every night there's a port talk, and so most people go up to the lounge and they get their pre-dinner drinks, and then comes the port talk. Well, the ship's so big that they can't do it in a lounge here, so it's filmed in the theater, and then you can watch it at any time in your stateroom. So what Kim and I like to do is we like to come up here for the views, have our pre-dinner drink, and then go down to the restaurants for dinner. So let's go check out the 7th floor of the Explorers Lounge. So here we are on the Explorers Lounge on deck 7. You can see it's very similar, more seating, but here's the unique thing about the Viking Oceans. This small dining area is called Mamson's, and this is named after the grandmother from the owner and daughter who run Viking. It's a really nice, quiet place to have breakfast, and sometimes you can have lunch here as well. So let's go on downstairs and see what's down there. While we're descending the stairs, one thing you should take notice of in the stairwells is the Viking tapestries on the wall on every level as you go down. They're all unique. They're all based on real tapestries, and there's even an area on the ship that has some Viking heritage, helmets, weapons, and history of the Vikings. So that's always interesting to look at. Let's keep going. Here we are in the main restaurant. No reservations required. Fine dining. But one of the cool things about this is, even though, as you can see, it's a huge area and it goes on both sides, is that you can see how it's divided up into small dining rooms. So you get that very intimate feeling, just like you have on the rivers. The service, bar none. You get the Viking service and you get the Viking food. But 2 of our favorite places to eat are the specialty restaurants. Let's go check those out. Just down the hall this way is the restaurant. We're on deck 2. And as we make our way to the stairs to go down to deck 1 for the specialty restaurants, this is the Viking heritage area that I was talking to you about. Lots of interesting things to check out, especially if you've been a history teacher like me. And there's lots of information about the Vikings. So here we are in the Atrium. This is the grand staircase. And one of the cool things about this, which a lot of people miss, they just don't pay attention, is this large mural is ever-changing paintings. And in the evening what they do is they have these paintings by famous painters. And down on the first level, there's a grand piano where they're playing classical music. during the evening while people are sitting around having their drinks and looking at the artwork. So let's keep going. We're on deck 2. Just outside here, there are some shops. And this is Tour Shoppen, which is, as you can see, a bar where a band plays. A lot of people like to come here in the evening and spend their evening chatting about their day and having an after dinner drink. It's very intimate. And now we're down the hallway. You can see here some of the shops. Jewelry over here. The Viking shop is over here, where you can get some Viking gear. So it's a nice place to do a little bit of shopping. Let's go on down to the theater. Here we are at the Star Theater. Each evening there's some kind of entertainment, whether it be a guest speaker or some music. But what the Star Theater is mostly used for, at least in our opinion, is if you don't check in with your guides down on the pier right off the ship, you check in right here at the Star Theater. One of the most interesting stories happened to us in the Star Theater. We were in Italy and we came in, showed tickets, and a gentleman who was checking us in, he said, "Oh, you'll enjoy this. I hope you like heights." And we were like, "Wait, what?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry, it's pretty high, but you'll like it." So we get to this marble quarry and they put us in Jeeps and we went hundreds of thousands of feet up these winding paths in the Jeep where we could see straight down, but the views, panoramic, they were to die for. Like all Viking Oceans expeditions, excursions, they are just really phenomenal. So much better than what you get on the rivers, even though those are really good, but here on the oceans, that's one of the spectacular things. So let's go down to guest services where you can check in and get those excursions. So here we are at the excursions desk. Typically, you book your excursions before you come on board. But here's one of the little tips I can give you that most people don't know about. When you go online and you've narrowed it down from the many choices of the excursions that you want to take, and you find that the one you want isn't available at the time you want, or worse, it's sold out, wait until you get on board, because they save about 20% of the openings to be booked right here. And that made such a big difference for us. And the excursions that you get with the Viking Oceans, you don't want to do just the included. They're fine, but if you really want to dive into the area, you want to do the excursions that are going to cost you a little bit of money. Just as a couple examples, we in Norway went in the Bergstad caves. The bus drove right into the caves. We got off the bus, we got on boats, and we floated on a river in the caves. When we were in Norway, Geringer Ford, most people went way up to the top for the panoramic view. We did jet boats. We went right up to the base of the waterfalls, what fell right on top of the boat. That was so cool. We went to, twice now, in Greece, we went to the Villa of the Roses, where in Corfu, we had a small walking tour of the town. Then we went to a private villa that overlooked the Ionian Sea and had a homemade Greek lunch made for us right there. And then two of our favorite ones, we were on the Atlantic Road, which is in Norway, and it's this bridge. It's very swervy and everything, and that was cool in and of itself. But when the latest James Bond movie came out, big scene was filmed there, and I'm like, oh, we were there. But one of our favorite excursions that was optional that we opted for was in Venice, where we wanted to do a nighttime gondola ride. I thought it would be very romantic with my wife. We get into the gondola and these two, let's say 40, 50-year-old gentlemen get into the boat, and I'm like, well, that kind of ruins the mood. The one guy had this giant backpack. And the boats shove off. There are about a dozen of us in the group, and the one guy stands up, and I'm like, what is he doing? The other guy pulls out an accordion, and the guy that stood up, he's an Italian tenor. The other guy starts playing the accordion, and the entire time we're floating through the canals of Venice, our boat is the one with the tenor who's serenading the group. So cool, so romantic. Let's go check out the spa. So here we are in the Nordic Spa. There's a gym right through those doors. There's all these nice lounge chairs, hot tub, pool. One of the coolest things is there is a ice cold bucket over there. It's something very special. Come with me. This is the snow grotto. And yes, this is real snow. And it's very cold. So you can go in and out of the hot and the cold, have this drop down on your head. It's very refreshing, very chilly. Here we're at the first of the two specialty restaurants, but here's a big difference between Viking Oceans and all the other large oceans. They have specialty restaurants, but they come at an additional cost. All you need here, make a reservation. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, you can just walk in. This is the chef's table. And the cool thing about the chef's table is the menu is fixed. There are 4 or 5 courses, each one with its own individual wine that's paired to the food. And one time we were on and I looked at the menu and I told Kim, I'm like, I'm not gonna like any of this. Loved every bit of food they served, and the wine was fabulous. But the favorite place for us to eat on both Viking Oceans and Expeditions is Manfredi's. Let's check it out. Here we are at Manfredi's. It's an Italian-themed restaurant, and it is by far our favorite place to eat on all Viking Oceans and Expeditions. They have the best pasta, they have great steaks, and the atmosphere is great. In fact, we come here a minimum of 2 or 3 times on a 10 to 12 day itinerary. Everybody we've ever traveled with, they love Manfredi's as well. Make sure you use your early reservations to book Manfredi's. It's just great here. And so we conclude our tour here in the living room. Very comfortable area to come and read. It extends out into the atrium area. But one last clue I'll leave you with, very good tip. Always book your air with Viking because you get a great discount. But here's the thing, use their Air Plus program. Because when you use Air Plus, it's between $50 and $100 per person. When it's time to book your air tickets, you can customize them. How many layovers do you want? How long do you want the layovers to be? What kind of seating do you want? And the best part about traveling with Viking is they make sure that you make it to the ship and you make it home on time. Hope you've enjoyed the tour. We're off on our 17th adventure on the British Isles. Hope to see you on board sometime.